Well, howdy folks. So we need to begin the process of getting the 57 Bel Air up and running and really get it out. You know, it has been torn apart for decades, as I understand it, and it just needs to go home. And we're going to help out with that. What I want to accomplish in this video is I want to get everything out of the passenger compartment and the trunk, all the loose parts, put them on the shelf I have here, and then B, so that we can scoot it around the shop as needed, it has to get running better. I showed just a little bit of it when I brought it home, that video, and it sounded like a hit and miss engine. I mean, it's bad. So first things first, let's dive into the six body trunk at least, and see what we can do here. All four look the same. Strike one. There we go. You've seen a little bit of this before. Now originally I thought I was putting a wiring harness in it, but I think it just needs to be finished up mostly in the dash area. So we will put that where we don't have to look at it. Oh yeah, I mean, we just got a giant box here. A couple of sun visors. The interior, let's put it there. Climate controls, gauge pod. What else we got? Turn signal cam. Windlace, junk drawer. I'm seeing a lot of interior knobs and bezels, cigarette lighter, horn button, a Chevy, springs. I'll just put this whole thing over here for now. Short valve covers. I think, if I remember right, this has chrome covers on it already. Yep, there's the originals. Some dents, pretty nice. Oh yeah, we just... top shelf item. We just filled the boot tray up with all the hardware. That's lovely. They definitely did not adhere to the tag it and bag it system. from body mounts to lock cylinders to light sockets. To hardware. We got it all. Lots of goodies, I'm sure. Trim. Heated stuff there at the bottom of the pile. Sure. Got all these. I know there's got to be a term for it. It grabs the bottom edge of the headliner. That is one thing I definitely need to order, is a headliner. I wonder if this has no wiper motor at all in it. Well, we'll find out. That'll be fun. Headliner bows. Okay, well, now I have a little bit better idea of what we're dealing with here. Those up there, I'm going to push this back. Maybe pull it. Almost forgot what we have on the inside. Another steering column. And one would assume one could be carpet, one could be Bel Air hardtop sedan with spare tire cutout molded trunk area. Okay, well, that's cool. Bel Air, 2-door, 4-door, wagon, sedan, one-piece molded black loop. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Now for the main event. I see some things wrong right off the bat. Forget if I mentioned them in the earlier video or not. The most concerning of which is there are no front studs or bolts or anything holding down the carburetor. This being a 2-jet, there are 4 studs necessary and only the back 2 are present. So that is obviously something that we are going to have to take care of. So I am going to remove the carburetor. You got to anyway. track down some studs, and then what I'm going to do probably is get it to top dead center, number one, and just go through the ignition, making sure everything is timed right, wires are right. I was told that the previous guy, the mechanic that I picked it up at, he adjusted valves on one side. I don't know. And he said it ran a little better after that. I don't know which side. I don't know why he did one side. Anyway, that could be something that we double check as well while we are messing with turning the crank around. So let's get that carburetor off. What the deuce did they do here? I've never seen the like. What in the world? 13. Well, we have a beautiful carburetor, but that's really where it ended. I gotta try this on these. Yeah, it goes on there. 12 millimeter nut. And what is with this? What is that? I don't know. Anyway, that kind of nonsense always makes me a little nervous. So a good mechanic's rule of thumb is if something becomes too big of a pain, just ignore it, you know. Front two studs look like they have been twisted off and completely rounded down, ground down, probably tried to be grabbed with a vice grip for 5 hours one day, 30 years ago or whatever, and this is where they were left, and so someone just said, and threw the carburetor on there anyway. A good plan. Foolhardy at best, but a good one. And then I have no clue what is up with that stud. Why is it like hollow or turned down or a tube sticking out of it? I don't know. Anyway, all but this one is going to have to come out. this is gonna be fun. Do I continue on this tack thing, or what do I do here? So we've got our timing marks lined up. 4-stroke engine, you are going to line that during the course of the 4-stroke cycle. You are going to line those marks up twice. One at the top of compression, one at the top of exhaust. I'm sure most of you know this. So basically, when you line it up for the first time, you have a 50-50 chance that you're hitting the right one that you want when it comes to adjusting valves, checking that you're hitting right with your ignition, all that kind of stuff. I suppose a guy could go off of the top of the exhaust if you did the math and figured out where your rotor should be pointing when it's at the top of exhaust. But that's very silly. And there's one thing we are not around here. It is not silly, you know. We are 100% serious 100% of the time. And it looks like I'm going to have to remove the alternator or adjust it out a little. I do want to go off number one top dead center compression. Be a little normal once in a while, you know. And talk of adjusting valves makes me nervous, especially having seen the rest of the work so far. So I am pulling the valve covers off, and that will tell us immediately what stroke of the 4-stroke cycle we are on the top of. All that to say, I'm doing stuff and adjusting things and redoing work that should have been done the first time, right? Ooh, but it's pretty in there. I was able to pull the wiring clip off the alternator and sneak that valve cover out of there. So basically, to know I'm on the compression stroke, obviously you're creating compression in the cylinder. You want both valves closed. You're not going to create compression any other way. So both of these rockers should be level. If it was at the top of the exhaust stroke, then your exhaust rocker would be tilted. This end would be down. This end would be higher up, pushing that exhaust gas out. Kind of like, if you can tell on the camera, this one looks like it's on exhaust. This outside end is much lower than this one. And you can see this looks higher than this, right? That's how this would look if this was on exhaust, but it's evidently on compression. But look how clean it is in here. It has obviously not been run. So I guess I am going to go through the magic and the fun of checking all of these. Most of them look somewhat uniform. Not that that's necessarily an indication. This, you know, these look a little different than some of the others, but we'll check it out. Okay, I am halfway done adjusting valve lash, and I like to follow the old school method personally. especially when the engine is in the vehicle. We're not doing this on an engine stand. I know, you know, there's a famous YouTuber out there, you know who he is, that really touts doing it just by feel. You just keep working yourself around the engine until all valve lash is gone. The only difficulty sometimes is you've got to turn that engine over many times. But, you know, doing it the old school manual method, especially when the engine's in the vehicle, you only have to turn the crank once. If you're starting at top dead center, then you turn it again, another rotation when number 6 is at top dead center, and then you adjust the other half. You know, the only thing is you got to know which ones to adjust when. So, personally, I always keep my cheat sheet. This is a copy out of a 60s Chevy manual, you know, and it tells you right in there. Get the manual for your vehicle. It'll tell you right in there which ones to adjust when. But you do it your way. The right side seemed to be extremely adjusted extremely tight, more so than the left anyway. So could have been part of our problem. Most likely it wasn't an issue, but causing an issue. I kind of doubt, you know, it was bottoming out or anything in the lifter. But anyway, turned it once more. Number 6 is at top dead center. Now I can adjust the remaining valves. Alright, it is about half an hour before I usually go home for the evening. So I'm kind of breaking my own general rule here. Getting a torch out this late in the day, I really don't like doing that. Especially when we are talking about getting parts of an engine that are installed in a car that is practically done. Cherry red, you know. But I think if we pay attention, do this quick, pay attention to it, it will be fine. I put on the old valve covers, my preferred valve covers, you know. They're just classy. You just can't beat them. Anyway, put them on so that we don't mess up the new chrome ones. I've got the fuel line in a can here. Anyway, got a fire extinguisher ready. I don't need to do that one. I do need a new cutting tip. I'm very well aware of that. I just don't got it here today. All I'm looking to do is get these studs that need pulled out, get them good and hot. Get them cherry red and then walk away. If a guy could You know, be helpful to pour some cold water on them. But I don't think we need water down the intake. That old base gasket looks like it's re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. I think it's bright. All right, I'm done. We'll give that a shot. Okay, so far with just the heat, I have gotten the weird one out and the broken off one on the same side. So that's great news. I tried a little on this one, but it just broke the little nubbin off more. So we are definitely going to have to stop messing around with that one and weld a nut on it. Well, as I look around the shop this morning, we do not have any burning piles of embers. That was once a 57 Chevy, or a shop, you know. So that's good that we did not burn anything down. You know, that's always a great thing. I just do not like doing that at the end of the day, as you well know. Now, first thing in the morning, I am going to weld the nut onto the stud, last remaining broken off stud on the intake there, and that way, if we have any problems with open flames, we have all day to take care of it. Right? Right. I've already disconnected the battery. I don't like running, you know, welding with electronics. You know, if we can spare the IBM 650 in the trunk, you know, the ECU that runs the cigarette lighter, so much the better. So I've done that. So we're going to get that welded up. Now, I'm embarrassed and ashamed to admit it. If I've ever run into one of these in the past, I obviously did not remember it. But we are here to learn together. This funky stud with the tube is indeed, most likely, a factory vacuum fitting that went to the vacuum advance. For some reason, the vacuum port on this intake is brazed over. I don't know what's going on there, but I did not recognize this for what it was. GM did that back in the day for a few years on some applications, and Chevy was one of them. So yeah, I probably won't forget that little detail in the future again. Hopefully not. But anyway, I've cleaned it up, cleaned up the threads, and I'm going to put that back in with the right hardware. Probably not a metric nut again. Okay. Anything else? Nope. Let's weld that on. Oh, she's toasty. What say you? I don't know. Maybe the Tim Taylor will help. Oh, battery died. That's embarrassing. Yeah. All right, so here's where we at. I need to get some parts together. A new carb base gasket, 2 carburetor studs, and all of the fine thread nuts to go back on them. I misplaced my I'm sure it's here somewhere, the one good standard thread nut that I had. Obviously, they're all fine thread 5/16. So take care of that. We were sucking air through the base gasket. You could see where that was happening on it. But obviously we were also sucking raw air right through that sucker as well. So literally it was a sucker, right? Okay, let's see if we can get focused in on the old stamp codes here. There we go. We have a T. Sorry if it's just focusing on the heater lines here. T is Tawanda 1208, probably, or I. No. What? No. Is that an I or a 1? I don't know. Date code ending in 8, which is probably 68. MK, when I look MK up, that comes up with 1967, 327, 275 horse, manual transmission, probably out of a Nova or a Camaro. Now, MK comes up under 67, but obviously the last of the date codes is an 8. So a little bit of a discrepancy there, but at least we know what we're dealing with. Double hump heads. Ought to be a hot little number, eh? Other than the fact we still have the factory 2-barrel on it. And as far as the intake, 3746826, that is a factory 1957 265, 283 2-barrel intake. Well, a guy went to town yesterday and did what no good young lady should ever do. I picked up a couple of studs. Oh, that just got weird. Anyway, we're going to put this on. I was going to work on the 54 pickup today, but I came in with all the parts for this, and I just have got to hear it. See if we're going to solve all of its issues. Some Teflon on this vacuum fitting stud here. Get the stuff installed. All right. We'll do the double nut trick here to tighten these, so I'm not just ruining the threads with a vice grip or whatever right away. These studs are quite long, but they should be okay. I can always trim them down if I have to, but I don't think I'll have to. That one bottomed out. New gasket. And the carb. I forgot I was going to ask if they had an oil cap. Might be unlikely, but the parts store I use, they surprise a guy quite often. Anyway, I just redid everything. I did not like how long the studs would have worked, the new ones, but I did not like how long they were, especially here at all the linkages. It was playing that dirty trick with a guy where you know, the nut spins free on the threads, but as soon as you get in a tight spot, and just can get a fingertip on it, it just doesn't do anything for you. So I cut them down a good 3/8 of an inch. It'll look better anyway. Match the other one back there. Right. Get that in there. I will tighten these up. That'll take forever, especially this one. Doing one a degree at a time or whatever with a wrench. And then we'll get the linkage hooked up. Come on now. There you go. Good thing we don't have a 6-pack on here. Have to do that 2 more times. Okay, a guy has linkages hooked up. By the way, choke housing is a little bit loose there. This is the questionable spring that was on here for the throttle return, and they somehow had put it under the rubber bushing through the steel arm, you know. This one I had on the shelf. I will probably get another one. I think this is just a little bit more stiff than a person would like, but you know, just hook it through the pinhole on the rod, and then that's just fine, right? Yeah, that bushing, I don't like that bushing. Anyway, all right, get these a little snooze. A little snug. Seems to have tightened it up. All right. Got the vacuum line on. Choke is hooked up. Fuel line's hooked up. Carburetor's probably empty. I found yet another, you know, cut it to length yourself throttle spring. Looks like I need to tighten it up even a little bit more, but it's working anyway. So we'll check that out. Timing, I'll wait till later to see if we need to do anything with that. Obviously, dwell. I could double check our idle mixture screws real quick. I might do that just to see where we're starting at. Nah, let's see if we can get it started. That's part of the excitement. Is the battery dead? That is another very real possibility. I would say, judging by the fact it's doing nothing at all, that indeed the battery is dead. So I cranked on it a bit without you. Got a little bit of a pickle. Not really. A happenstance, you know. We seem to be completely out of gas. That also may have contributed to it running very, very poorly. Not too sure, but anyway. Yeah, we're out of gas. We also have no gas cap. You know, those things are sometimes seen as a good thing. So it's not going to happen today. That would mean another trip to town. All right, I've got stable in the gas. Put the spurs to her, Chuck. Guys, I think that's going to do it for now. I would like to run it longer, get it nice and hot, check the timing, adjust idle screws, so on and so forth. There is something hanging the throttle up. It does not want to go all the way down to idle. I don't know if that's the kickdown rod. I don't know what's going on. Some choke linkage, some, you know, the rods on the carburetor. I don't know. I've got to figure that out. I need to get an oil cap. I need to get a gas cap. We got to figure out the hole. That was the old breather crankcase vent in the back of the intake. So on and so forth. Get some kind of plug for that, you know. But I don't want to run it any longer in here. I'm working in here, and it's cold outside. I've got no ventilation. I can't back it out. I've got I've got stuff in the way, is what I'm saying. So, anyway, that is going to do it for now. We know it runs. We can piddle around with that in the near future while we are putting other stuff together. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me this time around. We will be back to work on this one soon, and of course, we're always working on other stuff. God bless you guys. We'll see you on the next one.